I was up till 4:30.
Turn the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score. Raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Welcome to the CanesWear Weekly Podcast on the FTSN Network. And we are here on a special Wednesday night, November 6th. We pushed it back a day, and we are awfully excited with the regular CanesWear crew today. We got Mando. We got Uncle Cliff. Uncle Cliff, wait a second. I think he's is there a tornado there, Uncle Cliff?
No, I'm good.
Is that a Duke Blue Devil in your house? What the heck's going on there? So we got Uncle Cliff showing off the muscles today, and we've got special guest host John Michaels of Atlanta fame, and we're glad to have you, John. Thank you for joining the program. So we're excited today. We're following up another big.
It's always good to see these smiling faces.
Well, thank you. It's always good to be smiling with you on the other end, or seeing you in the store, or coming down for the games. It's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time for the Canes. 9-0, correct? I mean, every time it's another game, I say, "Are we really 9-0?" I mean, one shy at 10-0. We won 53-31. Was that the final score?
Yep,
I mean,
that's right.
They didn't have us nervous at all again, the Canes. 14-0 lead. and then the next thing you know we're down by 11 points in the second half, but which is pretty much traditional Miami Hurricane football. Because if we don't make adjustments in the second half, then something's not right. So great win by the team. We got the running game going. Fletcher and Martinez were dominant. Cam looked great. 5 touchdowns, 3 to Restrepo. I mean, just a great win all around. Mario beating Manny. And I got a lot to say about that. But Mando, tell me a little about your thoughts on the game. And welcome.
Well, yeah. What's going on, guys? There was no nerves at all in the crowd down 28-17. Not at all. First half, we get out to a 2-score lead. And you're thinking, well, bombs away. This is going to be an absolute blowout. Well, then after late first quarter, early second quarter, the game starts tilting. They go down and score, and Duke was ready. Manny had them ready to play. Their receivers, I know one of their guys made a crazy one-handed grab in the game. They fought. They were ahead. They were another double-digit lead in the second half deficit for us, and somehow, some way, what do you call them? The cardiac king? They just find a way.
Totally. Everyone says make the shirt. I don't want to jinx it, just holding off. Seen a lot of cardiac teams, and we don't really need that. We're all getting a little older here. Maybe not John, but the rest of us are getting a little older, and it's a little scary. So, but I'd like to see somebody extrapolate. Maybe Brad, since he's got every statistic in the world when he gets here.
Yeah. Well, crazy stat was in the second
what
half.
Our fourth quarter advantage is. That's a great stat, because I know in years past we're usually outscored by 3 times in the fourth quarter, but this year we are dominating the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it could be partly conditioning, mental toughness, but in our last 7 drives of the game, I think they said that we scored 5 touchdowns, while Duke only scored 1 field goal the last 5 possessions, after pretty much kicking our butt when they had the ball. For most of the game. So it's crazy. Just absolutely insane what's going on.
Absolutely. John, welcome again. Thank you so much for joining the program. Good to see you on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, it's good. I had to do a little technical change. The home studio was not working right, so we just went to the good old cell phone, which seems to work a hell of a lot better down here. I think it was 32-3 or 31-3, the final run for Miami. To take care of business against Duke. Now, I love the fact that you said I'm young, which I'm not even close. I'll be 50 9 days from now, and 7 days from now, 8 days from now, whatever it is. The 13th, I'll turn 50. And trust me, my vision isn't what it is. My stamina isn't what it once was. So there's a lot of things going sideways. But having this team 9-0, my goodness. Brett, you have seen me come down there many a years where I come in and I'm happy, and then by midseason I'm just like, look, I just want to buy some new gear and look good. Right now, I could wear all the great CanesWear gear all over Atlanta. My show hosts are like, are you going to wear Miami stuff every day? I said, every damn day. I'm going to have it on until we get eliminated or we win a national title, whichever one comes first.
Exactly. You got to wear it every day. I love people. I used to say to people when I first started the business, are you wearing Canes items because you're in the store? No, I wear Canes items every day. I mean, more than any other team. I mean, I saw Florida State starting to wear some Florida State gear when they were having a good year a couple of years ago, or when they had the Jameis crab leg years. But now, it's like you don't see people wearing Dolphin wear. You don't see people wearing Panther wear every day. But you see people wearing Canes every single day. And we haven't been relevant for about 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing that, one bowl win in 16 years or so? So 18 years. And we've got, and people are wearing Canes stuff every single day. So it's awesome. So I agree. Wear it every single day. Uncle Cliff, thanks for joining us back on the show.
Hey, my phone doesn't work too well after 9:30, bro.
Hey, Cliff, we know you're up till 2 a.m. on X, okay? On X. All right, we know. I see you under that other alias. Shh, sorry.
Oh, wait.
Oh, jeez.
I was going to say, you got the old Metro PCS plan where your minutes don't turn on until 9 o'clock. I think that's what it exactly is.
That was it. Yes.
For 3 minutes.
I think I'm old enough to remember the Bell South this Bell South plan that you got about 130 minutes for about $99. It was like, what the heck? And I thought it was a good deal.
I remember the first cell phone plan I had when I moved to Atlanta in '99. I didn't have a cell phone in college. I couldn't afford one. And I got here and Sprint was like, hey, we'll give you a phone for free, but you're going to sign up for this plan. Well, you got I think it was 200 minutes until 9 o'clock. And then after 9 o'clock, your nights and weekends were free. And I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? At the time, trying to be a dating man in Atlanta, I'm like, all right, call me back after 9. Click. Because I couldn't take any calls any longer. So our kids have no idea how good they have it with a phone that's got a computer and video games and everything else. We used to have to do, they call it raw dog in the flights where you don't have anything. We have raw dog everything. I just be sitting out at the bus stop like, I am so bored. I don't have any damn thing to do. My Walkman batteries are dead. That's how old I am.
I can imagine the girls that John dated telling their friends, yeah, the guy seems great, but he only wants to talk after 9.
Hey, listen. When I was growing up, my mom and dad would have to call people at 11 o'clock, and I'd say, why? Because that was when you had the real phone plans, before cell phones. They used to have these phones, you won't believe this, but inside a house, and they were on a cord, and you had to spin around. You couldn't go far. If you went too far, you got pulled back. So you call people after 11 o'clock. I guess that's where I learned to stay up late. On that, the old days, the people are us. We know all about that. So a couple of things. We got Melissa, a hoodie girl. I saw her and Hoodie Mama at the show today. Melissa said I always watch, so I said, well, you got to make a comment. So Melissa said, tell me I need to comment when I listen. Great job, Melissa. Congratulations, and thank you for coming to the store. Who do we got? We got Alden. Thanks, go Canes. Absolutely. My buddy Dave Magnuson just say something about the LA Rams. So the thing I can say about the LA Rams is Cleveland Gary, before he became a Ram, did not fumble Hurricane. No. And Cleveland Gary was the first pick I had in, I think, fantasy football draft when I started a long time ago. And how long ago was Cleveland Gary a rookie? I mean, that was
1989?
Yeah, I was going to say.
What was it, number 43 or something like that?
Yep, 43.
I don't know. Was there any other Canes that played for the Rams?
Greg Mark did, because I think Greg Mark was drafted the same year that Cleveland Gary was. I believe they were both first-round picks the same year.
Were they really?
I believe so. I could be wrong. My memory as I get older kind of goes.
Yeah, so I didn't remember Greg Mark, but a great guy. I'd see him at the Hall of Fame and everything like that. Great guy. Great defensive. What was he? Defensive end?
Yes.
He was awesome. A great player in Canes lore. But obviously Cleveland Gary was awesome. So what do we got about this game?
Well, if you want to start with the game this week against Georgia Tech, it's all about quarterback. Will Georgia Tech's quarterback Haynes King play or not? Honestly, is the big question. And Brent Key spoke yesterday during his press conference and said he's still day-to-day. Well, if you normal day to day is all right, there's probably a good chance that he's going to end up playing this weekend.
Mhm.
But they've said day to day about Brent Key, or excuse me, about Haynes King going back 3 weeks before they played Notre Dame. All week long, Brent Key kept going. He's day to day. It's going to be a game time decision. He didn't play. Then the week against Virginia Tech, same thing, day to day. It's going to be, it's going to be a game time decision. Ultimately didn't play. Then they had a bye week. And now, as of yesterday, it was still day to day. I had somebody text our show that says they don't believe Haynes King is going to play. Well, if Haynes King doesn't play, their backup quarterback, Zach Pyron, is not much of a passer. He struggled in their 2 games. They've been outscored, I think it's 52-13 or 52-19 in the game against Notre Dame and Virginia Tech without their quarterback in Haynes King. They actually were so bad offensively against Virginia Tech, they went to a true freshman named Aaron Philo, who filled in the second half, and he moved the ball some, but they still ultimately only scored 6 points. With Haynes King, this game's going to be a shootout. I think Miami's going to win 52-30 something. Without Haynes King, they're going to be hard pressed to move the football because they just don't have a trigger guy that really scares you.
All right, so we got to be looking at. We're going to find out when do you think if he's going to play? They're going to announce the game day.
You'll find out about 9:30 Saturday morning or maybe 10
Okay,
o'clock.
12 o'clock. All right, so
Yeah.
good thing we're not playing fantasy college football.
Well, I do. Fantasy college, you're missing out. Oh my goodness,
I have not played. I mean, I had it on DraftKings for a bit, but where you're in a group?
Yeah, I've had a league now for about 9 years.
Wow.
There's a site called Fantrax, Fantrax, which is where we run our league through. But it is fascinating.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, you will learn more playing college fantasy about teams that you have no idea about
That is
than
a
I
great
know
thing. I like
ever
that.
in my life.
I mean, I play fantasy golf on DraftKings all the time, and I seem to know a lot about golf. But it's like I'm not like Mando, and I'm sitting there playing table tennis though, or whatever it is. Ping pong.
There is no rush like being at lunchtime at work on a Tuesday and just seeing on your phone, hey, it's Tuesday, table tennis day. I may or may not have picked a wager.
Well, that's awesome. I got to do that sometimes. I'll see a thing at Twin Spires, and I got to say, hey, wait a second. In the 5th race, is a horse named Brett going today? That horse came in like 8th. I was sure. I laid everything on him. I said, this has got to be a winner. I got to be a winner.
Well, that's great info by John. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, day-to-day can be tricky. As we know, in the NFL recently, Jaden Daniels got injured in the first quarter against Carolina. Was it Carolina? With a rib injury. They said it was day-to-day. Nobody expected him to play. The guy shows up against Chicago a week later, he plays. So now John's saying
with the game-winning touchdown.
Right. So Haynes King, now, I mean, yeah, if he's out, that point spread's going to balloon up because you can't throw the ball. I mean, that changes everything.
The thing is, Mando, they actually have weapons on offense. They've got a running back named Jamal Haynes who can fly. They've got Malik Rutherford and Eric Singleton at wide receiver, 2 smaller guys, but super fast. And their offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, comes from the Georgia tree. He was on the staff when they won a couple of natties. He runs a lot of plays that you probably saw out of Jeff Brom, a lot of plays that you saw out of Manny Diaz as offensive coordinator. They're going to run guys in motion and try to get guys into one-on-one matchups and try to hit explosive plays. But if they don't have a quarterback that can throw the football, this could be load up with the pass rush, take away their run game, and just have them realize that they're going to have a hard day at the office.
So you're feeling good about this game, John?
I mean, I bought 10 tickets to the game because I've got all my kids, which is only 3, my wife, my daughter's boyfriend, other people that I know up here. Like we're going to be deep in Atlanta. Awesome. Like our radio station does a pregame show at 8 o'clock. And I was like, I'm showing up with the old school Luke jacket, the nice starter jacket. I've got a couple of big chains I'll be wearing. I'm going to look as Miami as humanly possible.
Well, that's awesome. Well, speaking of starter jackets, CanesWear, the spot Miami and South Florida fan shop, we just got, and we always have the exclusive type of Luke jackets, but we just got the first time ever the inside-out reversible jacket. One of them is orange on the inside, green on the outside, and you can reverse it. So you've got an orange and green jacket, or there's a black and a white version. So it's like the cookie, the black and white cookie, the black and white jacket. As they said in Seinfeld, why can't we just all get together? But that was a Seinfeld line, by the way. Anyway, so great cookie, great jacket. The orange and green jacket is fantastic also. They're awesome. And You got to see him at CanesWear. Lots of great things at the store right now. We got tons of new stuff. We are going to have the Michael Irvin shirt. Supposedly tomorrow. We'll be announcing that soon. Everybody's asking for it. So a lot of exciting times right now for Canes football. Let me ask you a question. We lost Cliff again. Everyone's got technical difficulties today. Going back to the Duke game, am I the only person that doesn't have a problem with Manny Diaz? All these fans on social media just hate him. I think Manny was doing his best. He was put in a tough situation. He came in after with Rick. He really had never coached a team before. It's a very difficult job at a high-profile team like us.
Mhm.
You know, Mario, we saw what happened at FIU. It didn't work out so well after he had the bowl year. And I don't know. People just get so upset at our old coaches. Why?
I
he
will
was
say
trying
that.
to win. He
I will
brought
say that
Jalen
after,
Phillips. He brought some other players.
yeah, they didn't show it on the broadcast, from my understanding, from talking to people after the game. But after the game, it was a very quick, short handshake with Mario. But after that, I'm talking about players, staff, anybody wearing UM was hugging, embracing. They were showing Manny a lot of love and back and forth. And he waited for Restrepo for his post-game interview with ESPN to be done. He embraced Restrepo. So there was a lot of love being shown back and forth. It wasn't like they were ignoring the guy. So you could tell they had respect for him.
I think the players did for sure. It's the
Yes.
fans that I never understand. You know, it's like, why are we upset at ex-coaches? You know, let's run 60 burger on Manny. Let's do this on Manny. Because if you notice, none of their guys, when they're winning, they're not throwing down the U. I'm sure Manny said we're not throwing down the U.
Right.
You believe that to be the case, John? That was from Manny, a direct?
I'd have to think so, because everybody, when they score against Miami now, it's throw down the U or do the U break over the knee or whatever it means. I'm sure he had an edict there. Maybe I'm just a jerk. I wanted to run it up on him. And you know what? If we play Al Golden in the playoffs, I want to put 100 points on that dude. I guess it's something for me where I just want guys to succeed. And I'll tell a story. I had a chance to meet Coach Golden right when he took the job. Like the old radio station I worked at 2 stations ago, we used to do a show on old Comcast Sports South. It was broadcast out of Atlanta, but it played all around the Southeast. So every morning our show was on TV, and typically I'd have a Miami shirt on, like, I don't know, 4 out of every 5 days. And all of a sudden we get a call from the school, and I thought my secretary was just playing with it. They said, "Hey, University of Miami's calling you and wants to know what size clothes you wear." And I told her, "Get the hell out of here. Miami's not calling me. Nobody, I mean, I know some people there, but nobody cares." Sure enough, Coach Golden saw me on TV one morning and goes, "Let's get this guy some new stuff." And you'll understand the story, how it ended up going. So I ended up meeting Coach maybe about a month later. He did a fundraiser or a meet and greet in Atlanta. And I looked at him in the face, Brett, and I told him point blank, I said, "You have my undying support if you win football." I said, "The second you start losing, I'm going to turn my back on you. And if you've ever followed me on social media, I'll turn my back on somebody pretty quickly." And it kind of is the same thing with Manny. I wanted Manny to succeed. I thought there were some things he allowed the team to get away with for a long time that just didn't jive with winning football. And truthfully, the only thing I care about is winning. And I've told people up here in Braves country, the second Freddie Freeman signed with the Dodger, he's not my guy anymore. I want to beat the hell out of him. And that's how I feel with former coaches. Al Golden still has me blocked on social media from 9 years ago because I think I MF'd him and Mark D'Onofrio one too many times. And Manny, you know what? I wanted to beat him by 7. When Cam Ward had a chance to put 60 on the board, I wanted that 60 piece just to feel better about ourselves. So I guess maybe it just tells you I'm a jerk. I just want to beat guys who used to be here.
So that's all right. So that's what I wanted to know. Why do people feel it? Which I understand. We're not rooting for Manny, but I thought Manny did as good as he could. If he would have been given all that money that Mario got, would he have done better? Probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you think about the resources that Mario has that, quite frankly, no Miami coach has ever had. You can go back to Howard Schnellenberger. He had to beg for like $1 million. Now, $1 million in 1980 was a lot of money to really get the program where it's at. But none of these guys got money. There's a reason Butch Davis left, because they didn't put the money on the table. Larry Coker had no resources. Randy Shannon could barely fill out a staff. So, yeah, Mario definitely is reaping the fruits of the labor of the hospital and everything that's going on down at the school. And Manny probably would have had a better chance as well. I also think he allowed kids to get away with murder down there. Mario talked about the broken culture when he took the job, and there's a reason we went 5-7 and 7-5 because there were a lot of entitled, spoiled brats that were on the football team. I love all the kids that are there, but when you're allowed to lose a football game, like would happen under Manny, and run to social media and say, "Yeah, we lost, but I had 8 catches for 94 yards," nobody gives a shit. We want to see you win football games, not post your own stats. It's something I try to teach my own kids. It's more about, if you're on a team, it's more about the team's success than your individual success. And I think that's something Manny never really, it's not that he didn't embrace it. He allowed a culture to kind of creep inside the locker room. And that's why he's not here. I wish he wins at Duke, just not when he plays Miami.
Good point. Good point. Like, we hope he beats the teams that we need him to beat. But I thought Manny tried to be everybody's friend. That was the thing. Manny tried to be friends with everybody, similar to what Mike McDaniel's doing in Miami. I think he wants to be friends with everybody, and I think that's that same type of person. They're good guys. They want to have a good time. They want to be friends. So it's thankfully Manny's out. I have no ill will against him. I thought he was a decent guy. He brought in some decent players like Jalen Phillips and others. Obviously brought in TVD. Obviously, look at the guys that he brought in that are now in SMU, including the coach. Pretty good job at that too.
Right. And it looks like that's who we're going to play in an ACC championship game. I don't know about you guys, but I was cheering for Louisville so hard on Saturday night. I almost felt like I was a Cardinals fan because Clemson, you want to talk about teams that rub me the wrong way. Clemson and their fans, God, rub me the wrong way.
Totally. Their fans are. I remember with the games we've lost, they're all over. Our posts and things like that. Like, they're the greatest come lately. Miami hasn't won in forever. I saw, all the different commentators about that. Oh, if Miami played, but lucky to play Clemson, because they'll probably lose before that. And who has Clemson played? I remember he downgrades our schedule, but, we played a Florida team that is playing pretty well, and we played them with their starting quarterback, for that matter, not their third stringer. We beat a good Virginia Tech team. Granted, people at that time thought, hey, but Virginia Tech has been doing better. We're beating decent teams. Louisville, so it's, I still think our ranking, I don't need to be number 1 or number 2, but I think we should be ranked ahead of Georgia and Oregon in this new pool. I thought we really go to 3rd and not 4th. That was interesting to me. Obviously, 4th is fine. Let's just win. People ask me all the time. I saw a guy in the deli today said, hey, would you rather play Oregon or Ohio State in the championship? I said, I just want to have a seat at the table.
Right.
Let's just get there. I don't care who.
I really want
Florida State. Ohio State. I said, I'm fine. If I had my choice, probably let Manny play Oregon. But at the same time, I have no beef with anybody. Let's just get there. We have our own.
Yeah.
We're our own worst enemy. If we can do what we can do, we can run the table.
Yeah, pretty much at this point, these rankings are going to take care of themselves because even I know John's in Georgia. This weekend, you got 2-loss Bama against 2-loss LSU. You got 2-loss Ole Miss against Georgia. You could see, LSU, Bama, the loser of that game most likely is going to be, if it's Bama, they could maybe somehow squeeze in somehow. But
Bama could probably still get in with 3 losses, yes.
It would be tough, but if anybody would, it'd probably be them or Georgia. But Ole Miss and Georgia is a sneaky game. It's going to take care of itself. You got Indiana playing Ohio State. You talked about Oregon and Ohio State. I think Ohio State beats Oregon on a neutral field. And if I think of the way it is right now, they'd be in the same bracket. Ohio State as a 5 seed would be scary as hell for anybody they would play, obviously. So we'll see what happens. It could still shake down.
So that's right. So they would not be. If you can't have 2 teams in the top 4, it's right. It's going to be the
it's either them or Oregon.
ACC, the Big 10 and the Big 12. The winner.
Not necessarily.
No,
it's the 4 highest conference champions. So remember, the Big 12 or the ACC for that matter, you could potentially just say, for argument's sake, BYU loses a regular season game, but then wins the conference championship, and Boise State runs the table and wins their conference. Boise State could actually get the 4 seed because it's just the 4 highest seeded conference champions. It doesn't necessarily have to be the 4 highest seeded Power 4 conference. But the difference is, like, Ohio State now being number 2 in the Big 10, they'd fall to the 5 seed, which quite frankly might be the best path of anybody. So think about this. 5 seed right now, Ohio State would play 12 seed Boise State in Columbus, Ohio. Probably blow them out. Then their next game would be against 4 seed BYU in the Fiesta Bowl. Okay, they're going to be a huge 2-3 touchdown favorite over
That's
BYU.
crazy. Yeah.
They could potentially be in the semifinals. Now, the semifinals, you'd have to play the 1 seed most likely, which might be a rematch with Oregon or somebody else. But that 5 seed, it might be the premier spot to be out of anyone, although you're going to have to play in that first round.
Yeah.
So how is it going to work with every league has a championship game, right? I mean, a few years ago, I think it was the Big 12 didn't have it. It was the Big 10. Someone didn't have a championship game, and so
Now
a team that lost in the championship game was penalized. Which I never think a team that loses in a championship game should be penalized. But how is it going to work? So a team, whoever wins the championship, okay, it's going to be 2 teams. So one team can have 4 losses, for example, and they're playing a team with no losses. The 4-loss team wins, just to say, they're the ones that advance, and they would have the bye, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. So they would have the bye. So it's are most of the conferences now going to all in? I mean, on one side, or is there 2 sides still?
No, there's no longer divisions in any of them. So you're most likely you're not going to see one of those 4-loss scenarios. Like you think about the ACC a few years back, I think Wake Forest might have had 3 or 4 losses going to the championship game. Those days are over. It's going to be the top 2. And the fascinating one, we talked to Gary Stokin, the guy from the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl today. And you heard from Ward Manuel yesterday as well, the AD at Michigan, who's over the college football committee. The fascinating part will be the losers of the conference championship game. And Cliff, this one I think is interesting where you live in Pennsylvania. Penn State might actually be better served to not play in the Big Ten championship game to potentially take that second loss. Because you think about it now, Penn State's got a loss, but should run the table. 11-1 Penn State is going to get in the college football playoffs. But if 11-1 Penn State then had to play a conference championship game against Oregon and just say they lose that game, maybe now they're on the outside looking in. Ohio State's going to have the cachet to get in even with 2 losses. But Cliff, talk about that for a second. Like the thought of a team that goes 11-1 and misses the conference championship game could actually be a beneficiary.
Yeah, that to me would be, that's crazy. If they don't make, like you said, they don't make the Big Ten championship, they could be, like you said, they could be that 5 or 6 seed. They might be able to get, they might have to play, like you said, Boise State, BYU, or something like that. So that would be crazy. It's almost better not to be in that game because you're going to either have to play Oregon or Ohio State, which they're not going to beat either of those 2 teams.
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with you're laying back. You're like it happened for Alabama a couple of years ago, right? They didn't have to play in. They didn't have to play in the championship. They weren't good, but then they automatically advance. And it was to the Final Four. So if you don't play in your championship game, you shouldn't be in. Well, obviously, it's going to be. I mean, there's going to be the 4. There's going to be the 4 conferences, and then
remember, it's also tougher because now instead of having when all this started, I'm opening up to it now. At first, when I heard 12, I thought it was a joke. Because honestly, to me, like John mentioned, the Boise State, a cute story, but what are the odds that an 11 or 12 are going to knock off Oregon, Ohio State? It's slim. I mean, this isn't the end.
I think it can definitely happen. I definitely think it can happen.
Anything can happen, but
it's different. But I think it can happen.
You're talking about winning 4 straight. I mean, I love it now. I love the idea now. But to your point about Penn State, now Notre Dame. Notre Dame never plays a conference championship, so they lost to Northern Illinois or whoever they lost to, and they're going to probably run the table. I don't even know what the rest of the schedule looks like. It's not great. They're in. They're going to be in regardless. Whether they're 8, 9, 10, whatever, they're going to get in. So there's pros and cons to that. But yeah, Penn State, I don't see them leapfrog unless Ohio State loses to Indiana, I think in a week or 2. Then Penn State, I believe, would play Oregon in the Big Ten championship.
Well, no, then Indiana would play them because Indiana.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. Indiana. There you go.
But if Indiana loses to Ohio State could play in that game. Would play in that game.
No, it'd be Ohio State against Oregon. Yes.
Yep. So Ohio State loses to Oregon. There are 2 losses there to Oregon. I guess.
They're still going to get in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But how many teams from outside of the Power 4 conferences? It's Power 4 now, not Power 5.
I don't think it matters. The best 12 teams after the 4.
One team, you think, John?
I think it's the one team outside of the Power 4 will get in. Is there an outside chance that Army goes undefeated? Well, actually, I'm sorry, there'd be two because Notre Dame, I forget that they're not in a Power Four comp. Notre Dame's going to get in, and then your group of five, your highest ranked group of five champion will get in. The fascinating one is the ACC. And this will go back to my conversation about not wanting to play in a conference championship game. So think about it. SMU is 13th right now. And there's going to be shakeups where they potentially could end up by the final week before the championship games being 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Absolutely.
But if they lose to Miami, they're going to be outside of the top 12. So for SMU, you might look around and go, man, we would have almost rather Clemson got in there or Louisville. And SMU is undefeated in conference, so they're going to be the team that's there. But they could ultimately be punished by playing in a conference championship game. And Brett, to your point, 2017 was the year. The SEC title game was number 1 Auburn against number 3 Georgia. Auburn had lost 2 games that year, but had beaten Georgia and Alabama and ascended to number 1. But because they had to play Georgia in the SEC title game, they ultimately lost that game, fell outside of the top 4. Alabama, who didn't have to play the championship game, was able to get into the playoffs and then ultimately went on to win the national title as Tua hit Devontae Smith in overtime and beat Georgia. So that could be an argument this year for teams specifically in the ACC or in the Big 12. Somebody like that, like BYU, could lose and be out. Playing in that championship game, while it's going to give you a bye week, it could potentially kick you out of the playoffs as well.
No, that's definitely. It's tough to be penalized on that. That's the thing. And that didn't it happen with Ohio State won the national championship under Urban Meyer. They won it with the third string quarterback. There was something that happened that year. Did they not play in the championship game? Because they had a loss or something that they didn't, that they just got voted in as the fourth over somebody else, over TCU, I think it was, who didn't. So I think at that time the Big 12 didn't have a championship game. Ohio State didn't play in it. They bound and they won it. So teams like, I don't have to play in the championship game, my own championship game, and I still can win the championship.
Well, I think a lot of that also goes with which schools we're talking about. Right. If it's an Alabama, if it's a Georgia, we know what they are. They're going to get – remember, TV runs this also. It's a lot of money involved.
Yes, exactly.
If it's a 2-loss SMU – they're not getting in. Regardless of how good the season is, they're not getting in the top 12 or 10 or whatever. If it's a 2-loss Bama, or now we're even talking maybe a 3-loss Bama, or if Georgia loses one more game, Georgia for sure will be in the top 12 without a doubt. Like, that's not even a discussion. Yeah, they're going to be in the top 12. If Georgia runs the table and we do, I'll tell you right now, I think Georgia would be ahead of us. We would not leapfrog them. I don't think we would.
Mando,
I think what you're saying, an undefeated team will get ahead of them. I do believe that.
A 2-loss Miami's not getting in.
No.
If we lose another game, he's saying Georgia will get in. Right now, if this season ended, would Georgia still be ranked ahead of us?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, yeah, because they still have to play number 16 Ole Miss, number 7 Tennessee, and then a potential SEC championship game against Texas or Texas A&M. They're going to play 3 fairly highly ranked teams. Mm-hmm. They could finish 12-1. We could be 13-0. They're going to be the number 1 team in the country, or they'll be ranked ahead of us.
We're going to get a bye anyway. We get a bye week anyway.
Yeah, okay, so we run the table, but let's say we lose in the ACC championship game. We're getting in for sure.
To me, if we lose before the ACC, I say no.
No, if we lose before the ACC championship, we have to win the ACC championship.
Right, but then if we lose, I had this discussion. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Steve Kim. He's always on Twitter and him and John are the 2 most knowledgeable MFers I know as far as Canes. So he believes that if we go undefeated and lose in Charlotte, we don't get it. I'm like, no, Steve, I totally disagree. If we have 1 loss, we'll be in the top 12. There's no way you're going to go from 3-4 to 13. That'd be crazy. Right. I mean, to me, we're in. If we win the last week. Now, if you lose this week or Wake Forest or Syracuse and then lose again in Charlotte, now you're not getting in. To me,
305 Sports. Welcome to the show. It makes a good comment here. Besides that, there's a home run lineup. It's Miami our ratings are phenomenal right now. Are they not? Especially with the Heisman Trophy top candidate. I mean, wherever we go, we're selling out. We're doing a great job. Is the NCAA going to take that into effect? If you say TV runs everything, people love to hate Miami. They already love to hate us. It's like oh, you guys have been favored. The ACC has been taking care of you. It's like it's 2002 and we're great again. It's like we the last 20 years didn't happen. But Miami, because they are such, we are back. We had Ward and everything like that. I mean, could we squeak in even with 2 losses? It depends how everybody else is doing it, obviously.
Yeah, it depends.
ESPN has a thing on their college football page. If you look over on one of the tabs, it says All-State Playoff Predictor, which I spent way too much time during our show today playing around with that. And I actually did a loss to Georgia Tech and SMU, and it gives us a 48% chance to still make the postseason. Now, we'd be an 11 seed or we'd be a 12 seed. We'd be way down there. There is a chance. The way, let's just eliminate that crap. Go win these next 3 games.
Win the games.
Exactly.
We should be able to win this game.
We're a double-digit
we have
favorite.
to fall on the ball in the last play, we should be able to win the game. I mean, looking back at that fall on the ball, are we even in? Let's say we don't fall on the ball and we go to 5-0. All right. Are we in this position with Cam Ward right now, or is TVD our quarterback?
No.
9-0?
No. I mean, would TVD be? Would we go after Cam Ward if we'd win? If we get to 5-0, 6-0, we start playing like that?
No. My opinion on that, he had played so terrible against Georgia Tech anyway.
Yeah.
Threw 3 interceptions, 2 of them in the end zone, just awful picks. That was the game that was the blueprint of how to stop Tyler Van Dyke. Play soft zone and make him dink and dunk all day, and he never had the patience to do so. I think the writing had been on the wall. They wanted to replace him, whether it was with Emory or, they had tried to bring in Jaden Rashada, whoever it was going to be. I think ultimately Tyler was going to leave either way. Had he had a great season, he was going to go to the NFL draft. If it ultimately turned out the way that it was, throwing interceptions and everything else, he was gone either way. But let's be real. Cam Ward's a godsend. Cam Ward is the difference between us having a conversation now of us probably being 6-3, good season,
at best,
trending in the right direction, to 9-0, the probable Heisman Trophy winner, and 3 games away from having a guaranteed playoff spot.
Insanity.
No doubt. And I think you'd give us a little extra credit by saying we'd be 6-3. And I don't know how Emory or Poffenberger would be right now, but they're definitely not Cam, because Cam can just will this team. I say I've not seen a quarterback this good, this magical. The only guy I compare him to, and I know it's a big stretch, is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's that type of player, in my opinion. He just and he's so darn calm. It's too calm.
College-wise, they put in the graphic of the numbers side by side. Ward and the 2019 Joe Burrow. That's how good this guy's playing. Because Burrow, I didn't realize Joe Burrow put up some serious numbers that year. Like Joe Burrow
he had quite the supporting
out of this world.
He had
loaded. Yeah.
He had Jefferson, right? And he had a Jefferson. He had the
Chase.
He had Chase. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And Clyde Edwards-Helaire was his running back.
That's right.
Yeah. They had a look. To me, and this is a conversation we've had in Atlanta with a bunch of my Miami friends up here, Cam Ward is Cam Newton. Cam Ward is doing for Miami what Cam Newton did for Auburn. And if you remember that Auburn team, Nick Fairley was the name from the defensive side, but outside of that, they weren't great defensively. I think we had better weapons at wide receiver and running back than Cam Newton had. But Cam Newton was a guy that anytime the chips were down, he put that team on their shoulder. Totally. I think they were down 16-0 in the first half to Alabama. They're getting their teeth kicked in, and Cam Newton rattles off like 24 in a row. He runs away from Patrick Peterson on a play against LSU that ultimately puts that game away. Why I remember this stuff, I have no idea. The national title game.
He's a human encyclopedia, I tell you.
It's Cam Newton doing things, and I think that's what Cam Ward is doing. People talk about our defense, and rightly so. 32 points a game during the ACC, not good. I get mad at Lance Guidry every week. I've just done better of keeping it off of social media. Although I thought he made a good schematic change against Duke. They went a little bit more zone in the end. But what you're realizing with our team right now is the defense only has to be average, because Cam Ward and this offense will every week put 36 points or more of pressure against the opposing offense. Their lowest scoring game of the year is 36 against Florida State in a game that, quite frankly, we could have scored 60 if we really wanted to, but they took the air out of the ball, they ran it, and they knew that Florida State never was going to be able to keep up. Duke played out of their mind offensively for about 2.5 quarters, and then the Cam Ward pressure kicks in. And what that does to an opposing team is, oh, crap, I got to score every time. I might now have to start going for it on 4th down like Jeff Brom did. I all of a sudden get scared if I'm Cal, and I go, I just got to figure out a way to run out these last 10 minutes, and you can't get it done. And I think whether it's Ohio State or Oregon or Georgia, those teams are going to run into those same problems in the playoffs. Like, I haven't been this confident, like real confident in Miami in 20 years. This is a legit, hear me when I say this, a legit national title contender. If no one gets hurt, this team can win the whole thing. And I'm going to be at the front of I'm going to be on the front of the CanesWear float riding down Biscayne Boulevard or wherever the hell the parade's going to be.
That's a great point. Let me reserve it now. I like the comparison to Newton. I look at
That's a good one.
3 Heisman Trophy winners. I think they were all Heisman Trophy winners. I could be wrong. That could run and pass like Ward. I think Vince Young, I thought, was one of the. I think Cam Newton was one of the greatest in the last dozen years. I mean, that may be a little bit longer than that. I think Vince Young was phenomenal when he beat USC and he put Texas on his shoulders. I mean, that was unbelievable. And I think Deshaun Watson was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, I mean, obviously, I think Burrow is more of a passer first. I mean, obviously, Ward's a passer first, but he can run better than Burrow could. And obviously, it's another guy that won the championship. So you've got, I think, where would you compare Cam Ward to those 3 quarterbacks? You can put Burrow in there, too. Burrow, Watson, Young, and Newton.
Well, single season, I just brought up Burrow a few moments ago, like what you just mentioned. He's having, take away the UM fandom aside, one of the best college football seasons you've ever seen. That was actually a good I hadn't thought of Cam Newton. That's a good one by John.
Yeah.
Yeah, this team, if you had asked me probably a month ago, I probably laughed when you said national natty. Now, yeah, our defense is going to give up 25, 30, but this kid, it hasn't happened once. It's happened, 3-4 games now where he just flips a switch and he just cranks it up.
Right.
That team believes in him, and they've got weapons.
He wills his way. He wills his way.
I mention his name every week. I think this kid has been a star. I talked about him before. There's Horton on the outside. Horton has been fantastic. Horton has been really good. I don't got to mention Restrepo. They're loaded. We don't even throw the ball to our tight end, who'd probably be a Division I All-American if he played anywhere else.
We went away from the tight ends a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's so much.
But we are running the ball more now.
Because there's so many weapons here. But to John's point, now about a week or two ago, I believe it. We are definitely look at the Hard Rock odds. We're now like 5th or 6th now. Before we were like 10th or 12th. Even Vegas now believes, Miami got something going on right now. So
we're 12-1, correct? Right now,
they're about 11 or 12-1. Where
they were 20
there's a place
to put that bonus bet.
The best all-around teams, obviously, Ohio State's actually right now has the best odds to win, and that's interesting. They even have them over Oregon. We'll see.
How would we be if we would have got Jeremiah Smith? I mean, I know Sam Brown is playing well. I mean, obviously we got Jacoby, and we've got we've got Horton and we got Restrepo. But if we had that addition of Jeremiah, how special is he?
No, that kid's incredible.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's crazy.
Cam is the guy. The reason he didn't come, because if Cam would have said right away, "I'm coming to Miami," he would have came, right?
Yeah. It's just
not that we have the most prolific offense in college football. So not that we're having issues here, which is scary to say that we're the best on third down, right? We're the best on third down. When's the last time we could say something like that? We've been the worst on third down before.
I mean, just being here 9 weeks in, me and Cliff and John text and talk all the time. Some of this stuff is surreal. Like, we're number 1 in America in points, in yards. Is this a joke?
Mario Cristobal has a team that's number 1. That to me is it cracks me up.
It's crazy.
Kudos to Mario for not getting in the way.
Yep.
My friends at work think I'm crazy. Like, you're going back to Miami again, back and forth. You're crazy. I'm like, you guys have no idea. I mean, we've been waiting for this for 20 years, bro. I might come back in 3 weeks.
And like Cliff's up in Pennsylvania, like two teams that to me have no shot to win it all, and they're going to get in is Penn State and Tennessee. They have no offense.
Right.
I mean, unless they're the 85 Bears in the playoffs, they're winning the whole thing. I'm not even worried about Tennessee and Penn State. They might win a game or two. They're not winning it all, but
Their offense isn't.
we're definitely one of the teams that has a legit shot to win the whole thing. It's pretty crazy.
12-1, like you said. Ohio State's 3.5-1. I think Oregon's 4-1. So really not getting that respect. But we've beaten. I saw some stat that we've got the best record from teams in the top 40. I think we're 5-0 now. Was Duke in the top 40?
5-0, yeah.
Well, I'd like to ask John because that's John's country. You got Georgia, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is at home with a 2.5-point dog. Oh, I watched the whole Ole Miss LSU game. It may have been for betting purposes. Yeah. They just gave away the game at LSU like 5 times.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss can pull this off. So I want to know what John. No way. You don't think that?
No chance.
No.
The next big game Lane Kiffin's wins will be the first. Him and James Franklin are the same people. The difference is James Franklin has a really good defense and a crappy offense. Lane Kiffin's got a real cute little offense that'll blow out a bunch of bad teams. Georgia's going to whoop that ass. You want to put some money on it? Go put money on Georgia. I mean, Georgia's won their last 3 games with their quarterback throwing 8 interceptions, 8 interceptions over his last 11 quarters, I believe. So,
and he was favored. Wow. He was favored for a while to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
You know what happens? Women weaken legs, and
I knew he was gonna bring that up.
How does he get a West Lavender twin? This is incredible.
Yeah.
How did they start? Yeah, that's crazy.
It's Instagram. That's how they all hook up.
It wasn't you, matchmaker?
No. I am too old for that.
Hey, what about in the playoffs? Going back to that, if they put every team that makes the championship game, both those teams would get in. That's 8 teams right there, plus Notre Dame 9. The G5 team, that's 10, and then you take 2 other teams that they think that are the best.
To me, Cliff, that's how it should be. The problem is, could you put in BYU and Kansas State? No. Could you put in, what if it's Kansas State and Colorado and they both got a couple of losses? Correct. The SEC and the Big Ten would go crazy. Because remember, they're already talking about expanding this, I think, to 14 next year.
Yeah, now it's getting ridiculous. That's just crazy. Like,
12 I don't have a problem. But how are they going to do that on buys? Are they going to do
it would just be one team would have a buy now, or the top 2 seeds, I think, would have a buy. Kind of like they do in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, how many games are they going to play? So we have 12. We have 12 games, correct?
Right.
We have the ACC championship game. You play that when it's 13.
Right.
Now let's just say you lose in the ACC championship game. Then you got to play 3 more games or 4 more games.
4 more if you lose it.
So basically, it's 17. It's what the NFL used to do when the Dolphins 17-0. You got to play 17 games, and these are kids. I mean, I understand they're getting paid now too, but that's 17 game season. Originally, they were playing 11 games in a bowl game.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you go 17-0, now, you wouldn't go 17-0. If you
16-0 is best.
16-0 is going to be the most. But if you have to go 16-1 to win a national championship,
that's crazy.
It changes so much. It is a war of attrition. And I think this is why next year, or is it next year or the year after, they're going to 105 scholarships. They have to. And that's going to – it's great for kids because now you're going to have 20 extra kids for 131 or 133 Division I teams. That's 20 extra Division I scholarships per team. But where it's going to kill is Division I AA, D2, NAIA. They're going to get lesser caliber kids. And there's going to be kids that are scholarship 95 that are going to go, what in the hell am I doing here? I'm 19th on the depth chart. But it's all about money. It's all about TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad these kids are getting their slice of the pie. I've been arguing for that for years. I think some of it's ridiculous, driving around in a Lamborghini at 20 years old. It's something I'll never understand. I wish I was good enough of a football player to ever have that happen. But I'm glad when we're in a multi-billion-dollar industry and coaches like Mike Norvell are going to get paid $50 or $60 million to go away whenever he gets fired. I'm glad these kids are getting their cut of the pie.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Excuse me.
I got you choked up over there talking about Mike Norvell.
Hey, so
it is amazing how much money these guys get. I did have a point.
John, you mentioned earlier something about the 12 Boise and BYU. Explain that again. So how would that?
So it's the 4 highest ranked conference champions. It doesn't necessarily just have to be the big 4 conference champions. So right now, BYU has, I think, 9 and Boise State is 12. So imagine a scenario where BYU loses a regular season game. And I don't know who their regular season is left.
They still play Utah.
Okay.
They still
just
play
say
Utah.
they lose to Utah, 4-loss Utah. They're probably going to fall to 15th or 16th. But what if they win the Big 12? They're still going to be conference champion. In that scenario, Boise State may climb above them and just say Boise State's ranked 8th. Now they may be the team that ends up getting the bye. And now your Big 12 conference champion, which could be 2-loss Colorado, it could be 2-loss Kansas State. In my scenario, it would be 1-loss BYU. Suddenly they're falling behind. They can end up being the 12 seed.
Got it. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So it's a really fascinating way this all gets done. All I know is I looked at the bracket yesterday and I said, of course, we would play the winner of Alabama and Texas.
Texas,
if the playoffs started today.
Of course.
Of course it's going to go like that. Now, there's 12, somebody mentioned, and I thought it was a good idea. I don't know if it was on Hockman. I don't know, were you talking about it with Hockman a couple of days ago about paying the players that get to the playoffs? I don't know. Somebody was talking about it on the show. It may have been Leroy Horde or someone like that. Not that I ever listen to any of these shows. But it's like, there's 12 teams that get in. I think these kids should be paid to play. The amount of money that's raised from that CFP just on the television contract of this championship is millions. I mean, I don't know, maybe $100 million, maybe more.
Hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions. So these kids should get paid. Every kid should get something, and every round you go further, you should get more money. So let's say they got $100,000 a kid for each one of them. There's, I don't know, and then they advance. Maybe they get 200. They let them share in it because there could come a time, I doubt it, the kids say, I'm not going to play in this game. It's not worth it to me anymore.
Right. Yeah, 100,000 might be a little too much because you're talking about 85 kids and, $8, $9, $10 million a team. How about 20,000? I mean, 20 grand. Hell, if you handed me 20 grand right now, I'd be flying.
Correct. 20 grand, and then you get more for the second round.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there because I actually have a bet with one of the guys I work with. He said there's no way Shador or Travis Hunter or Shiloh are going to play in a bowl game unless it's for a playoff. And I said, I don't think Dion would let that happen because that's his kids. So I actually have a bet that if Colorado doesn't make the playoffs, that Shador and Travis Hunter would play in a bowl game, although they probably shouldn't because they're both going to be top 5 picks. But I find it fascinating. Just say your team's in the quarterfinals and you're slated to be the number 1 pick or the number 5 pick. Would you potentially sit out? I don't know that anybody would because that's a really bad precedent. But man, I never thought 20 years ago that you'd see anybody sit out a bowl game. Correct. And now that's a trend that everybody does.
Well, what kind of insurance can players get for that? I mean, if
they can get $1 million policies or more.
Just million. They're not going to get $10 million policy if they get a career injury.
I don't know what the limit is, but I've heard of kids getting millions of dollar policies, like guys that are going to be first round picks when they get ready to go play in a bowl game or getting $1 million or $2 million policy, knowing that when they get drafted, you pay the premium, you don't collect on it, no big deal. But like the kid Jalen Smith out of Notre Dame, had to be 10, 12 years ago, was
blew out his knee.
Yeah, surefire first round pick and shredded his knee. The kid Jake Butt at Michigan was going to be a surefire first-round pick at tight end, shredded his knee in the Orange Bowl against Florida State, and his career kind of went sideways. So, there's nothing wrong.
Exactly. Way back when, I mean, obviously, Willis McGahee, I think, was he still he obviously would have been a first-round pick. Even
he
Melvin
went the first round.
Melvin Bratton, I'm sure. Highsmith was like a third. Melvin Bratton probably
that was a shame.
High first-round draft pick. Those guys, the bowl games, it's and it's good that the kids are getting paid now.
But the Colorado kids, to John's point, I think they would be more tended to sit out if there's not a national title involved. Now, if your kid is in the quarterfinals, imagine the scorn and vitriol of the home fan base, your teammates. That's why, to me, I don't care how much money's on the table. If you have something to play for, like a national title, I don't see how. I mean, anything's possible, granted, but how does a kid not play healthy. And
Correct.
from that point on, you'll be known as the guy that walked away from your school, your teammates, your fans.
Correct. You're playing the championship.
To me, if there's a national title involved, I don't see anybody doing that, but you never know.
Okay. Two questions. You mentioned Notre Dame. The fallout of the ACC. The ACC, what do they get? $15 million a team, where the SEC gets about $57 million. The Big Ten gets its fortune. I mean, we're at an advantage in money. And I know the ESPN won't change the contract, which is crazy. I mean, why doesn't, I don't know what Notre Dame gets for their contract, but isn't it about time somebody says to Notre Dame, you got to come in our conference? They're using our basketball. I mean, if they came to our conference, even if they got the majority of a higher limit of the money, in Miami, I mean, this would make the ACC a special conference and keeping all the teams, and everybody's getting more money. Because let's face it, that's the reason why teams want to leave, because of the money. So why can't we get Notre Dame?
Because Notre Dame has no incentive to join a conference. They're allowed to do what they do right now. Their only incentive would be to potentially get a bye in the playoffs. Because remember, they will never be able to get a bye. They can't be any higher than the 5 seed because they're not in a conference.
Okay.
But their TV contract, they write their own deals. They make money from NBC. Them going to the ACC, now you got to split the pie. Notre Dame's never going to want to be on the ACC network on a Saturday at noon. They want a network to themselves. And
that was a jab, by the way. That was a jab.
Oh, dude, the ACC network. And one of my really good friends in broadcasting does a lot of their games. Wes Durham. I've known Wes.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with Wes. Yeah,
He's
Wes
good.
is my guy. I worked with him on the Falcons radio network for a decade. Great dude. But let's be real. The ACC network is the lowest of the low when it comes to the SEC network's better. The Longhorn network for a while was better. The Pac-12 network didn't do much. But Notre Dame has no incentive to do so. One, we've allowed them to use us for basketball, but it's helped us as well. You brought a brand over in Notre Dame, and you have the deal tied in right now where they have to play 5 ACC teams anyway. So you get some out-of-conference games, which, by the way, we get to open with them next year. How awesome is that? If I'm not down in Miami before then, you'll definitely see me Labor Day weekend next year. No doubt about that. But
you're going to be at CanesWear afloat. Don't forget it. Book it.
That's the one I want to come down for.
Yes.
Put my big head in the front and let me.
Hey,
and I will try to attempt to Tom Brady and toss you the trophy.
what can go wrong in the after party of that day?
That's going to be. We're going to be at Sway or something like that. The big after party. So Notre Dame, no incentive. So they're not coming, is what you're saying, no matter what I.
No.
So they're not coming. So the ACC is always going to be at a disadvantage for money.
No, because the TV. And the funny thing is the lawsuits by Florida State and Clemson eventually could help the teams in the ACC. It's either going to have the ACC completely implode, or it could be, hey, we got to go to the table and do something else to make this work. They're not always going to be at a disadvantage, but they're never going to bring in the money that the SEC and the Big Ten does. And part of the problem, all of the schools in the conference have to start winning damn football games. Call it what it is. Miami and Virginia Tech were brought in 20-something years ago, 2004, to compete with Florida State and have a marquee matchup. We didn't hold up our end of the deal. Clemson became a national power for a nice 5 or 6 or 10-year stretch. But unfortunately now, as we're making a rise back, Florida State's 1-8. Clemson is, fallen off a little bit, although they're 6-2 this year. They're not national title contenders. Virginia Tech's a solid team, but they're not great. We've never had our conference where 2 or 3 of us all at the same time were really good. The SEC always has it. Whether it's Bama, it's Georgia, it's LSU. Auburn will jump up sometimes. Florida, does that. The Big Ten's always got a Michigan, an Ohio State, and a Penn State, and it holds up everybody else. And until we consistently win football, why would a network want to pay more money for a conference that's mediocre as hell?
Correct. We need to consistently win. Another question is on Cam Ward. Where would you rank him? And not the fact that I've got odds on him. Where would you rank him? Number 1 draft pick. You got Sanders. Sanders, I think, is the favorite. I said before the Georgia quarterback was the favorite. Travis Hunter's up there. It depends it's a two-part question, but where would you rank right now if the draft was today and a team needed a quarterback? Sanders or Ward? Who do you think goes first?
Some people have said that Sanders because of his height and his size. Not that Ward is a little guy. I mean, but ultimately it all depends who the team is. Right now, I think New England, I think, is the one or the two from the bottom.
There's like 6 teams tied with 2 wins, one of them being the Miami Dolphins.
But let's say it's them. They already got a guy in Drake May, which looks pretty damn good.
They're not going to draft a quarterback, for example.
No, they'll trade down.
They'll trade down.
Look, a couple of years ago, Carolina, and of course hindsight's always 20/20. You took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. Franchise, you just screwed your franchise for 10 years. So it happens. It's an inexact science. It is.
I remember there was a talk Ryan Lee for Peyton Manning, who's going to go first.
Right.
So it definitely does happen. So
no, Ward to me, Ward can go be number one. I mean, it all depends what team, the general manager, the scouting, whatever team it is. But would it shock me to see Ward going one? Which before the year, one of the reasons he came here was because he had a 4th or 5th round projection, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, and he thought he was better than all the other players. And I told his dad, I says he could be the Joe Burrow. Joe would have probably been a 4th rounder. If the year he played us, he was not good at all. The next year he was Superman.
Right.
That team could be one of the greatest college football teams of all time.
Yeah, I think the kid from Georgia, I mean, he's playing pretty rough the last couple of weeks, so he might be costing himself the number 1 pick. So
I've seen him slotted as low as 2nd round now. Carson Beck really struggling. Brett, to answer your question, if I had odds, I personally would take Cam Ward number 1 overall. But I think it goes to Mondo's point: who goes number 1? I've heard some chatter that the Sanders crew will not allow Shador to play in certain places. Like they're going to pull a John Elway. They're going to pull a John Elway and say, nope, I'm not going here. If the Raiders pick number 1, Shador will be playing. He will go number 1. That's my bet. If Tennessee picks number 1, Cam Ward goes number 1 because I don't think Deion's going to allow Shador to go play in the dysfunctional mess that is Tennessee. My only hope, and this is me living in Atlanta and working for the Falcons, for the love of God, do not let the New Orleans Saints take Cam Ward.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, well, they're terrible.
Like world beaters the first 2 games.
Unbelievable.
I had 100-1 on him to be the MVP, and he looked great the first 2 games. My friend said, and it was and it's like, hey, you never know. A quarterback, he had great stats last year, and they were just world beaters. Who they beat? They beat somebody.
They beat the Cowboys. They blew out the Cowboys in week 2.
Everybody beats us, bro. We're terrible.
Yeah, everyone's beating the Cowboys now, but he is. Yeah, I think the Saints could be the team. I mean, if the Dolphins had the number 1 pick, let's say the Dolphins win 2 games or 3 games, and they still got Tua, I personally would take Cam Ward. But I think if they didn't, they'd be crazy to go with a Tua. Obviously, they were not winning any more games this year, so Tua is something not going right. I doubt that's going to be the case the way they performed against Buffalo. But
zero chance. There's the economics in the NFL would not allow for that. You can't spend $260 or $80 million, whatever Tua's contract was, and then look to replace him. I don't want to say stuck. I love Tua. I think Tua's a fantastic quarterback. I think he's the only reason Mike McDaniel looks like an offensive genius is he's got a super.
Correct. He is. Look at the difference of how he plays. Versus, he's lackluster in a few places. Handling a snap is not his best in the shotgun, which actually was Cam's problem last year when he was in Washington State.
Yeah,
but yeah, Cam. But the way he tosses that ball so quickly to it, he did special. I mean, and that's a little bit like Cam Ward is. So that's why I thought Cam Ward could fit in this offense very well. How quick he throws the ball. They talked about the guy that you guys got in Atlanta, the backup. What is it?
Penix.
Yeah, Penix. But
I tell you what, though,
Cousins quarterback, and then drafted quarterback high.
Cousins is playing ball though. Cousins can play, man. Cousins is good.
Yeah, he has made it fun to watch Falcons football again because for about 8 years that has been one of the most depressing products anywhere. It'll be fascinating to see how the remainder of this year plays out. I just would love to see in New York City Cam Ward get his due and win the Heisman Trophy, and that we get a chance to go into the playoffs and just, you know what, have fun. For the first time in a long time, we get to be in a spotlight that I know all of us as fans have been dying to see.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And people I hear all the time, I'm so upset he's only here for 1 year. Of course, a lot of people that aren't going to the games. But I mean, it's like you got the Cam Ward World Tour, as Dolphin Derek calls it. You know, you got Taylor Swift, you'll pay $2,000 for a concert ticket. You can pay $40 to see Cam Ward's magical show. I mean, I think Brad said it on X. He said he's half quarterback, half magician. And he is, and just to come see him. But I'd rather have Cam Ward for a year than be stuck with what we've had. Nothing against a lot of our quarterbacks for the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's a better. I know Vinny had a great year, and Vinny was special, and Toretta was special with the Heisman, and Vinny won the Heisman, and Kosar and Walsh and Erickson and Dorsey. But I don't think that anybody had what Cam has.
No, and Cam does not have what those guys had, which was all around disgusting, nasty, great teams. Like people forget Testaverde, and don't get me started about the 87 or 88 Fiesta Bowl when he decided to have glaucoma and throw the ball to the other team all day long. That team that didn't win the title that year might be arguably Miami's best team ever. That's how good that team was.
That team was dominant, the fatigue team.
Jerome Brown, they were pretty good.
The defense on those teams were awesome also. But I think the 88 team is the most underrated team that lost to the Cleveland Gary didn't fumble game.
Steve Walsh. Steve Walsh is underrated.
They beat every single conference champion. They beat like 6 or 7 teams in the top 10. They were phenomenal. And that was the only loss for Steve Walsh's career.
Yeah, throw away
23-1 as a starter.
Yeah, Steve Walsh is underrated. Throw away the team accolades and the national titles. This kid, to me, I don't think I'm caught up in the moment. This kid right now, through 9 games, is playing better than any quarterback ever has through 9 games. I don't think there's a discussion about that.
He doesn't have the defense any of those guys had, because those defenses are all great.
No, I just mean individual play.
No, but I mean, he wouldn't have to do. But you're right, and I
agree, Mando.
The guy's got nerves of steel. He's back there, and the only thing you can say negative is he's too calm.
Now, if he does that if he does that cross-field pass one more time, Cam, I'm coming for you.
Couldn't believe people ripping him on X.
Can I give a shout out to Brad? Brad,
Please,
I just saw Brad's text pop up. I'm just leaving the airport.
What?
They lost my luggage.
My goodness.
So much for him being here at 9 o'clock. So we cruised through an hour. Love Brad. Like, Brad's my guy. It's like my little brother, man. I love that dude.
I know you do. Let me text Bobby. Just make sure if he's. I just saw that text too. Okay, just leaving the thing. 10-4. Poor Brad. I didn't even know he was going to Houston.
I didn't either.
I mean, it's like all of a sudden I'm going. I think it was a sudden trip. Like one day we were at the show. He says, "Well, I can't have it then." It was like dinner. Okay, I understand those days.
Yeah.
Let me just see. Bob, let me just see if Bobby's here and then close out the show. You guys,
hey, John, Commanders will go either the Raiders or one of the New York teams. That's my guess.
Yeah,
one of those 3.
Yeah, he's. I don't even know that they'd let him play for the Giants.
No,
I don't know. I know the Titans would be a no. I'm 100% sure Carolina would be a no. But I think the Raiders is where they really want him to go. And who knows? Maybe Dion gets the Raiders job.
Really? Well, Tom Brady's there. I mean, he's been pushing. He pushed for the Dolphins. He wanted the Dolphins, but the New York Giants. I mean, they've won multiple Super Bowls. I mean, they're not the Jets. That's one thing you can say about them. And that's a marquee team, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they've won Super Bowls and everything like that. I mean, just replacing their quarterback alone is a big thing. But they did give a lot of money to their quarterback.
How do you give Daniel Jones that contract?
How do you give any of these quarterbacks? I mean, look, Daniel Jones, I agree with you. He looked good. They're just pressured into giving money. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at that guy. What has he won? 1 playoff game in 9 years? I don't know how many years he's been playing.
Yeah, it's like 9.
He's terrible. Daniel Jones stinks.
I mean, who's a better playoff quarterback, Dak or Romo?
Oh, Dak. I thought you meant Daniel Jones. I'm sorry. Dak.
I'm talking about Dak or Romo. I'm on the Cowboys now. Stick with. But Daniel Jones, is he better than who is it? Hofstadter, or what was his name? The guy that won the Super Bowl?
Oh my God, Jeff Hostetler. You just dropped a Jeff Hostetler reference tonight?
Is he better than Brad Johnson? You know, if you have the right team around you, you never know. Like he could play with the Lawrence Taylor defenses.
Yeah.
Trent Dilford. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that just were not. I mean, they were just in the right place at the right time. They didn't make the mistake.
I'm just so tired of the Chiefs. I want somebody to knock off the Chiefs already.
He doesn't play well sometimes now, and they just win anyway.
Yeah.
And now that they got Hopkins,
yeah.
and they've got Hunt, they recreated themselves.
Yep.
Well, to
And
me,
why
it's not.
worthy
To me,
catch
it's
or pass. I had him over
Yeah.
25. I told you, Mando, on a big parlay, over 25, and he dropped both pass. One pass, he's out of bounds. Kids, if you're out there, don't gamble. By the way, our next sponsor is Hard Rock Bets.
Hey, John, do you think we'll stay in the ACC, or you think we end up eventually move to somewhere else, Big Ten or SEC? Or
I don't think we're going anywhere, and I think within 5 years all of this is going away, and it's going to be a 70-team super conference, break away from the NCAA, and they're gonna sanction it up like the NFL. I think you're going to have divisions. That's what I've thought is coming down the road for a long time. I think college football now with NIL and all of this, the NCAA doesn't have a president that understands how to take care of this. They can't sanction anything. So truthfully, I think everybody should just stay put at this point, and maybe not 5 years, maybe within 10, you're going to see college football break off.
How is the SEC and the Big Ten going to give up their contracts? Or just going to merge it in for everybody?
Yeah, it'll just be merged. It's literally going to be like an NFL collective bargaining. You'll split up everything the way that it is. And that's why I think you take the top 70. Unfortunately, the FIUs, the FAUs of the world are going to have to go back and fight for their slice of the pie somewhere else.
Good point. It's going to be a NFL on steroids.
Yeah.
So we'll be in the same division as all the Southeast teams. So it'll be like
there'll be different divisions, because I really don't want to see us go to the SEC. I mean, I don't want that gauntlet of a schedule.
Oh, I don't mind the gauntlet of a schedule. I don't mind that. Don't get me started. We don't have enough time. Next week, if I come back on, we can dive through the SEC. You want to talk about propped up by their two or three?
I definitely think so. There's a few teams that prop everybody up. Always is. 100%. And how do you know how good you are if you're beating the same teams?
Bam.
Alabama. So, all right. So we went over a lot of different categories today, a lot of little subjects. What's our predictions for the game? I think we're still playing Georgia Tech on Saturday at 12, right?
There we are.
What's our predictions? Cliff, you're first.
I say this week, Canes 45, Georgia Tech 20.
John, what do you got? 45-20, total of 65. Mando, is that an over and under?
I think it's right.
let me ask Al Michaels.
Yeah, he knows. The caveat with Haynes King, Miami 48, Georgia Tech 28. Without Haynes King, Miami 52, Georgia Tech 17.
All right, 69. We're getting higher. The other one was 66, 76, 48-28, 76. Haynes King. All right, what do you got, Mon? Even though I do like the over-under during the game. I like that. I mean, you can see how the flow of the game is going. Mando, you're up.
I didn't expect the 69 reference at 11 p.m. tonight on the CanesWear podcast, I will say. 47.
What I'm going upstairs for.
Whoa!
We have the OnlyFans show coming up next at 11 o'clock on your local stations, starring John Michaels.
To John's point, exactly. Now, the status of King. I mean, if we're playing a quarterback that can't throw a forward pass, that changes everything. But regardless, I'll say Miami 45-27.
45-27. All right. So 72. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't drink too much. Okay. All right. So I've stopped with my 38. I think the Canes are going to win this one. 38. I'm going to say 38. I'm going to go 38-14. I think we're going to take care of business.
14. Whoa.
38-14. Maybe 13 if they miss the extra point, or if they try to go for 2. But 38. I think the Canes are good. Defense is going to finally show up, which means I'm guessing that Haynes King won't be playing. But I think the Canes defense is going to show up. I mean, we need to make some big turnovers. With the defensive line, it's got to come through and we need to put more pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we started off this season, the killer bees. Even when Bain was out there, we were getting sack after sack after sack. I mean, what happened?
We're having pressure.
Not against Duke. It didn't. I think
Guidry
mentioned.
I mean, have we really been?
Well, no. This past week, I think Guidry was asked about that after the game. He mentioned. I mean, I don't know word for word how it went, but he was saying to the effect of something about the Duke scheme or this and that. But we didn't really get to the quarterback.
They
at
got.
all on set.
He
It's
said
not like Randy Shannon had said
All
it's
out.
too long to walk, or we were too tired by the time we got to the field to actually
Oh,
play.
all I know is that
I
every time you
remember
do,
that.
anytime you do preseason predictions, fans will always say 10 wins, 10 wins. Well, you're 4 quarters away from 10 wins.
I'd say most people in
So-
store thought 8 to 9 this year.
Oh, I thought, for me, John knows, I told John 9, I'd be on Biscayne Boulevard pumping my fist.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, yeah,
So
we better go way past 9. We're at 9
Oh,
now,
yeah.
so we expect you on Biscayne Boulevard tonight, pumping your fist.
Hey,
If you need a pot or pan, I've got some. Okay.
pots and pans, bro. Get the pots.
Exactly. Well, that's 10 wins. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for joining us. You can catch Cliff, Uncle Cliff, on Twitter. You can catch Mando at Mando Laker something, all 1, 2, 3, 4 on
And
Twitter.
Lakers game 305.
Oh, see, John knows.
We got Brad, who we're missing today. It wasn't the same without Brad today.
So is his luggage.
Brad is the CanesWear Daily Podcast. He's doing a fantastic
Luggage.
job with that. Does an amazing job getting great guests and everything like that. John, tell us about your schedule real quick. Where can we follow you?
At John Michaels U, just the letter U. You know where that's at. And tap the app as Mando does. Download the 680 The Fan app right here in Atlanta, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10. And also on the weekends at ESPN Radio now. So you can follow me there and just follow my Twitter. You'll find out where I'm at and what I'm doing. And this Saturday, come on through. Hell of a block party in the morning. They'll have Big Boy performing. You'll see me with all my
Nice.
kids and chains and everything. And I'll be at Georgia Tech by about 8 a.m. ready to roll.
That's what's
Awesome.
awesome.
Nice.
Awesome, guys.
Enjoy.
Remember, CanesWear, all your needs. We got the new starter jackets. So we got the tons of new options came in. We got your Panther gear for the Stanley Cup Panther Championship. We got the Dolphin gear for the soon-to-be 7 wins in a row Dolphin team. We got all your stuff, and hopefully we get 10-0. We can come back to this one, and we'll see who came closest. Thank you guys very much. Remember, the FTSN Network, Fins Talk Sports Network. Bobby does a great job. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much for joining us, and we are out.
Later, boys.